everyone for tuning in to our first ever live recording for Facilities in Focus, and to our audience that stuck it out with us for over the last 2 days.
Good job.
Thank you for being here. My name is Mackenna Moralez, and in case you don't know me, I am the associate editor of FacilitiesNet and the host of this very podcast. I always tell our listeners that it's a pleasure to be a part of their journey on the internet with them. But for the people here today, it's such a joy to be part of your NFMT, and I really am happy that you're here. But this is a very exciting episode, and I do say that for every episode. I'm going to be so real with you. Good. But it is not just because we're recording live here at NFMT, but it's because I am joined by Leo Bobadilla, Vice President and Chief Facilities Management and Operations Officer at Miami-Dade College. With over 20 years of experience, he leads a team of 120 employees who are responsible for the construction, maintenance, and operations of more than 8 million square feet of facilities across 8 campuses in South Florida. And I believe it's one of the largest in the country. Now, some of you may recognize Leo, and you are totally right to do so. Leo is a former Building Operating Management cover star and Facility Champion Award recipient. Plus, he has a bunch of other awards. He's a really impressive guy, so I'm really glad that you stayed and are tuning in. But I'm really happy to have you here today, Leo. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, and thank you for that wonderful introduction.
Good.
Appreciate that.
So I know I let you look at the questions beforehand, but can you just tell the audience a little bit more about yourself and your history with facilities management?
Be happy to. So actually being here has been very nostalgic for me because this building that everyone's been in, this was actually one of my first projects in my career in building and construction management. Had an opportunity to start in this industry as an intern and actually work here in this building, putting this place together. And once I completed that, moved up in the organization, and that had an opportunity to duplicate what we had done here across the street in that other convention center, which used to be just a wet marsh over there with gopher tortoises living in the sand over there. And there actually used to be some testing of tanks that was done on part of that site over there. So, of course, looking for any unexploded ordnance was also part of that project. But it was a very interesting, exciting project, and so it's been very nostalgic for me to be here. Since then, I have a career that has spanned from both private industry and government. I've worked in K-12, I've worked in higher ed, local government, and I've worked not only on the construction side, but business operations. So my passion is large operations, significant capital programs. So I've always had a tendency to go that way in my career. So I've had an opportunity to work with some very large organizations in the country as they've put together different business operation plans or capital programs. So I'm very honored and happy to be here with everyone. As was already said, thank you all for sticking it out and being here for the last session. Appreciate that. And I hope that you get something out of this. I know I will. I always do, attending events like this, and I'll be around at the end too. So if you don't feel comfortable, sometimes I know people feel more comfortable talking to me at the end of a conversation and have just a one-on-one, feel free to do that. But hopefully some folks will share some questions when we get to the Q&A as well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But so I didn't know that you worked on this building. Are you just like walking around and like touching walls?
It's been great because a lot of the materials that we use, it's great to see just how well they've held up. As you can see, this place gets used a lot. This is a huge generator to the local economy here in Central Florida. And that was the idea when we built this, primarily using tourist tax, was to really create income for the local community by having more visitors come here and not only make use of these facilities, but all the other facilities you see here in International Drive. And obviously you have Disney not too far from here in Universal Studios. So it was really intended to generate income here for the local community, and it's done that for several decades now, and it's held up very well, which is exciting for me to see that.
Am I allowed to ask how old you were when you were working on it?
I was just a kid finishing my first year of college.
Okay.
When I started working as an intern on this project. It was actually my summer after my first year of college that for some reason, I made a decision to do my first year in college in upstate New York, a very cold place for people who are not familiar with upstate New York. After that first year, I came back to Florida and I said, no, I'm going to finish here and I'm going to do my summer internship here. And the rest is history.
What did you go to school for?
Started out engineering, did 2 years of engineering. I found through this project that I really didn't like to be in the back room, that I preferred being more out front, forward-facing, more in a management role. So then I transitioned to a management program, got my MBA, and then pursued my legal degree as well. So I'm also a licensed attorney here in Florida, licensed general contractor, and a licensed realtor. So if you have any development needs in Florida, come see me. I'll be happy to help.
Is your attorney specialty like buildings?
Construction law.
Okay. I also went to an engineering school.
Yes.
But I came out with a writing degree. So I made my parents really proud with that. So what were some of the biggest challenges you faced early on in your career, and how do you think you overcame them?
Well, I've been very blessed in my career that I've had several good mentors. I think many of us probably have also had those people come into our lives who have helped us early in our career to be able to answer questions, to give us some opinions that could help us, to help us avoid stepping on those landmines that if we don't have someone who's been there, done that, we would do that and have a very negative experience. I've been very fortunate to have those people in my life. I'm very blessed for that, and that has helped me tremendously in my career whenever I've had challenges, to be able to take it to those individuals and say, let me tell you what I'm dealing with. How would you handle this, or what do you think? And what makes them really good mentors for me is that they didn't necessarily give me the answer, but they knew how to ask me the right questions that would make me think, and through that process, be able to come up with the answer myself. But those questions were key. So that's one thing that I tell folks is, if you've been in this industry for a period of time, consider the people who are coming up through the industry and consider being mentors to them. There's different programs that people can volunteer to be a mentor, but it's a wonderful opportunity to share your experiences and to help others to get to where you are today who are just starting out in their career.
That I think mentoring's been a common theme of NFMT. I know that a lot of people here have been in some of my sessions earlier where we have talked about it. What is something that you get out of mentoring?
So I probably get more out of it, honestly, than the people and the mentees, because the questions that they ask sometimes may seem so simple and basic, but they're things that get me thinking. Particularly as things are evolving in our industry, all the technology that continues to come into the industry, talking to people who are more familiar with that, who are more comfortable with that, helps me to learn also, not only the things that I thought I knew, but what's coming that could change that. And so I get a lot from being a mentor by being able to learn from them what is it that they see the challenges are today and into the future, that sometimes I hadn't thought of, but they're thinking about it already. And I know we're probably going to talk a little bit about AI, but AI is one of those things that is coming up more and more in the industry. And it's interesting having conversations with younger people who are more familiar with AI, who are more familiar with its capabilities. And it gets me thinking of different opportunities that we should consider in the industry of incorporating AI into.
I think it sounds like you're reverse mentoring a lot of people. The youth are teaching you a thing
absolutely.
or two.
They have a lot to teach us.
Yeah, there's that one young guy in the audience.
I don't want to point him out, but there's that one young guy. That's okay. We were all that one young guy in the
He
audience.
can teach us a thing or two, it seems. But what skill sets do you think tomorrow's facility leaders need in order to succeed?
When I sit down with my team and we have a conversation about the kind of issues that come up for us, it's interesting. It's usually not the technical side of the house. It's not that technical, the hard. It's the soft skills, particularly communications and being responsive, and how to be able to communicate a concern, how to be able to communicate solutions. And so that's where I spend a lot of time with my team. My style of leadership is to work as a mentor or as a coach for my team. I believe in hiring the right people, and if you've hired the right people, let them do their job. I think the worst thing that a leader or manager can do is hire people and then tell them what to do. If you hire the right person, then they should be able to do the job you've hired them to do. Now, along the way, they're going to run into some issues, into some things that are not the ordinary. That's where a manager or leader should come in and help with those things, to be able to move those rocks out of the road for them. But to me, it's very important that my team feel comfortable being able to have a conversation with me about when they have an issue and know that they can rely on me to help them when they run into those issues. But otherwise, I want to allow them to do their job. And so I think sometimes the most important thing, as a mentor once told me, is get out of their way, Leo. If you can say you've hired the right people, now you got to get out of their way and let them do what you hired them to do.
What advice do you have for facility managers who might have a boss that are micromanagers?
Yeah, so I think we've all had that. I've had that person too. And it's not always the easiest experience to go through when you have that individual who is either the micromanager or what I say only has really one tool in the tool belt to manage with, and that's the hammer. That's the extent of their tool belt, is management with a hammer. Sometimes we need the hammer, but if that's all you're managing with the hammer, you're probably not going to be the most effective leader that you can be. And so I think we all have to develop that tool set of skills in managing and leading a team so we know when to apply. You can't just have one or two tools. You have to have adaptability to the situation that you're dealing with and be able to adjust for that situation. And I think that flexibility is a very strong skill to have for anyone, whether you're starting out in the industry or you're at the senior level, is to be able to be flexible and adapt to situations and understand which is the tool I should be using here. Because that's usually where issues come up, is where someone picks the wrong tool to handle an issue and it becomes a communications issue, and it usually goes south from there. So that's very important.
How did you develop that skill set? I mean, you seem like a very nice person. I've talked to you a couple of times now, so I know that to be true. But how do you approach your management style so that you get respected?
I'll tell you this, as I've gotten older, I think I've learned how to be more patient. Wasn't always a very patient person, but raising two boys has taught me a lot of patience. And so the person you see here today is a lot more patient than the person you would have seen 25 years ago. And I think that's part of it, is going through life. I think you learn more patience. You begin to understand what truly matters and what does not. And for me, I think between having good mentors, between having the opportunity and being blessed with two boys in a family, and helping them through the challenges that all children go through as they're growing up, and just having the opportunity to be involved with a lot of exciting work that had many, many challenges, some that were anticipated, some were that completely unexpected. You learn a lot through that process, and you realize that the greatest thing when you're doing that kind of work is the teamwork that comes around it. There is no one person does the whole job, and there is no one person who has all the answers to everything. And I try to tell that to my team. I don't have all the answers to everything, but if we all come around the table, we can come up with a much better answer than if I just sit at the table and come up with the answer. So it's important, as everyone works with your team, to take that opportunity to bring people together and really leverage the different thinking that you have in your team to try to come up with the best solution.
Right. I agree. This isn't about to become a parenting podcast, but I would not describe myself as like a calm or cool, collected person whatsoever. But since I had my son, I have learned a lot about patience, and he is just a toddler. So I gotta have that patience with him too. But how I know that you are a lifelong learner, and I mean, you're incredibly well educated. So how do you encourage professional development and lifelong learning within your team?
Yeah, so I think for me, my personal story is that I grew up in poverty. And so having grown up in poverty, I knew that education was my avenue out. And so that was a big part of my lifelong learning, is understanding that that was the way out for me. And the other piece is I really enjoyed it. I really enjoy learning. I know that there's a lot I don't know. And so I enjoy learning more every day. Of course, every day when I learn something, I realize just how little I do know. But I think it's important to continue to expose ourselves to different experiences, to different materials, to different books, to different things in life, to recognize just how little we know, how little we've experienced. And there's still so much more for all of us to be able to learn and gain from not only our interactions with other people, with each other, like at these kind of events, but through simply wanting to educate yourself. Again, whether it's a book, audio books, used to read a lot, now I do more audio books. It's fantastic. I used to spend hours. I was telling these guys from Texas, I used to live in Katy, Texas, and I'd spend hours sitting on the Katy freeway, and I wish I would have taken advantage more of audio books then, and I do now. Now if I'm sitting in traffic, I put in an audio book, and I can be done with a book in a couple days of being stuck in traffic. So it's taking advantage of those opportunities that we all have, because sometimes I hear, well, I don't have time. Well, think about where you have that downtime, stuck in traffic, where you're doing something, working out, and pop in an audiobook or do something like that to be able, again, to learn something different and new.
Do you read a lot of self-help books?
I do have some self-help books, but there's a lot of other categories and subjects that I enjoy reading too besides self-help.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say you're like 50 Shades of Grey or anything, but thank you. One person, yes, laughed at that. But I understand the value. I am a reader. I told Josh over here that I read a lot. So I agree. I see the value in books, and obviously audiobooks are really helpful while on the job, stuck in traffic. Those are options where you can learn, and it's like passive learning a little bit because you're just trying to fill the time and space, so you're not sitting in silence with your own thoughts, but you're soaking that in and you're going to apply them to your everyday life.
Absolutely.
But so you're a facility champion. It's a coveted award at FacilitiesNet. But how can young professionals position themselves to become facility champions like you?
Sure. So I'll go back to find a few good mentors. That I think is a tremendous thing for any young person to do, is to connect with some good mentors to help them. I think another piece is to be open to change. I think sometimes when we're young, we think we know it all. We don't. And we have to be open to change and be open to maybe thinking differently too, especially when someone comes with a better idea, and be receptive to that. I think we have to be receptive to new information and new ideas, because it's very easy for someone to sit and say, I know how to do this. And, I could say that, but I tell my team, just because I did it that way doesn't mean it's the best way to do it. So let's see what you think. So I think we have to be receptive to new ideas, a new way of doing things. And I think young people also need to do that. And like I said earlier, I gain more from being a mentor than they do, because I learn more just in having the conversation with them and their point of view, things that maybe I had not considered that they're thinking about. Sometimes I leave those conversations and I go and bring my team together and say, okay, let's figure out how we do this, because I think this might be something that we're going to have to deal with at some point in the future. And AI is one of those things where we've been having a lot of conversations about AI and how do we incorporate that? How do we do it in a way where we recognize that some people don't understand what all that is? They only think this is something that we may lose our job over. And so how do we frame this in a way where people will understand what it is, and it's not something that's out to get your job, it's something that can help you do your job. And so part of that is figuring out how we do that and how to communicate that to the team. And sometimes the younger people have an easier time communicating that than people who maybe are not as familiar.
Right. So before we continue on, I do just want to open it up to see if anybody has some questions. Anyone.
We don't bite, promise. And there's no stupid questions.
It's not going to be a stupid question.
I know it won't.
Where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Where do I see myself in 10 years? I see myself continuing to be involved in the work that I've been involved all my life, being involved with challenging projects, challenging operations, because that's really what I'm passionate about. I see myself developing that next generation more and more. Like I said, I have 2 boys. One is in college. The other one is finishing high school soon. And so I see also, as I do my work and see new people joining the industry, I see the people that are going to be running this world with them, that are going to be here after I'm gone, after we're gone, that they're going to be the ones here with them sharing this world. So to me, I also see it as an opportunity to help that generation that they're going to live with to do better, to be better than we were as a generation, hopefully, and to leave them something that hopefully they can build on. And so that's where I see myself, as continuing to work in the industry and continuing to work towards leaving something that that next generation can build on and be proud of.
Does anybody have any other questions? It doesn't just have to be about Leo. He knows a lot about operations.
I could go.
We're recording this, Bob.
Over your career, what project kicked your butt that you were so happy was over?
Yeah, so I'm not sure that it was so happy I was over, but it was a very challenging project, and it was actually here, also in Orange County. It's the Orange County Courthouse Complex. So if you have an opportunity while you're here, it's in downtown Orlando. It's 3 buildings, 1 tower, and then on each side you have a building on each side of that tower. I was actually wrapping my work here at the convention center at the time. Been here several years by that time. And that project ran into some issues while being managed by a different team. And we were asked if we would volunteer to go over there and help try to get that project back on track. It's one of those projects where you walk in and you go, oh my gosh, how did it get to this point? But it was a wonderful project because particularly, I would say for a young man, seeing the issues allowed me to understand kind of, here's what you don't want to do. And then if you do find yourself here, here's how you get out of it. So that was a challenging project. That was, at the end for me, a very enjoyable project, but it was very stressful at point in trying to get something back on track and back in budget. But today it's a wonderful complex that I would encourage anyone to go see while you're here.
Anybody else have one? Can you just very quickly tell us about the Freedom Tower that you recently
absolutely. So for people who are not familiar with the Freedom Tower, it's in Miami. It is a project that definitely brought my whole team together and that whole community together. It is considered the Statue of Liberty for South Florida, the Freedom Tower. It's a building that just celebrated 100 years. It has a vast history from where it started to where it is today. And in between those 100 years, it served as a facility where the federal government used that facility in order to take Cubans who were coming from Cuba and process them and give them papers, medical checks. They would give them cheese and crackers and food and all that kind of thing. So they were escaping the Castro regime to South Florida. And the Freedom Tower was the building where they first really got to know our country. And so they were processed through the Freedom Tower. So many people, if not most people there in South Florida, know the Freedom Tower. Many of them have a connection either directly through family members that went there. You'll hear people talking about, my mom went through that. I was a little kid playing on the floor while she was filling paperwork, while she was seeing people she hadn't seen in years. And so there's a lot of emotional connection to the facility. And the architecture is beautiful. If you have an opportunity, again, while you're here to visit it, or next time you come, you should do so. But the building, after 100 years, needed a little bit of help. From a structural perspective, from an interiors perspective, the college had been using the facility as a museum and as a gathering spot, but it needed help. And so we've been, for about the last 2 years, renovating that facility, addressing quite a few structural needs that the facility had that were important for us to address, so that facility was going to be around for another 100 years. We had great support from the state of Florida, from the governor's office, to support that facility. Also, there was money that came in from the state to be able to do that project. Without that, we couldn't have done what we did. But it turned out to be a wonderful project. The museum is a beautiful museum. I had an opportunity not only to work on it, but to have a guided tour through it, which you think, well, if you worked on it, you've seen it, you know the whole thing. Again, always an opportunity to learn something else and learn some more information going through a guided tour. but it recognizes not only the Cuban community who came through this country through the Freedom Tower, but the whole immigrant experience in this country of different waves that have come to the country. It's recognized there at the Freedom Tower. So wonderful museum, wonderful building. Would welcome you to come. It officially opens for everyone this coming Monday. Up to this point, it's been limited guided tours, but officially it opens for everyone this coming Monday.
That's so exciting. How did you balance operational budgets for such a historical project?
So, when you do a project like that has such history, again, it's like working on the Statue of Liberty. The last thing you want to do is cut corners. I will tell you that. You want to do it right. You want to do something that not only you can be proud of, but the entire community can be proud of. And so that was our focus, is to deliver something that the entire community in South Florida could be proud of. And we believe we did that. I've seen several folks go through the building who walk out in tears because of what they've seen, because the memories that come back. There are areas where we have set up where we have captured the oral stories of people who went through that experience, who either were sitting on a boat 12, 14 hours to get here from Cuba, a boat that maybe should carry no more than 6 people, and there was 20 people on this boat, people who came on planes over to the United States, to Florida from Cuba. So you see people walking out of there, grandmothers now with tears, their children, their children's children. You just see multiple generations going through and just having a very emotional experience. We've captured, like I said, their audio stories so that there's a room where they can walk in and listen to audio stories of experiences of different people. There's another area where we have the suitcases that they use, the kinds of clothing that people were wearing. And we have another area where we've recreated the way it looked like at the time when people were being processed through there. And so we had a historical architect that worked with us on that project. And so we were very sensitive to maintaining the history as we invested and renovated the space, again, to hopefully have it last another 100 years for the community in South Florida.
I think it will. I'm so sorry. I went to the Jonas Brothers concert over the weekend, and 2 days at NFMT is really taking my voice out. But we are running short on time, so I just want to ask one last question. And that is, what advice do you have to give to the facility managers in the room today?
Yeah, so stay flexible, stay adaptable, continue to learn. We don't know everything. People sitting at the table know some things that you don't know. So that's why these kinds of gatherings are so important, because you get to meet other people who know things that could help you, and you know things that could help them. So I would say continue to attend these kind of gatherings. This organization, bringing this gathering, is a wonderful organization to stay involved in. And I'd suggest everyone here stay involved with it. They have wonderful literature that they put out. They have great writers and editors, one right there in the back, do a wonderful job of capturing the stories of people like us here in this room and sharing with others, which is another opportunity to learn from others. So stay engaged, stay involved, continue to be adaptable, and continue to learn.
All right. Thank you so much, Leo.
My pleasure. Thank you. I'm honored to be here again.
Thank you for listening to the Facilities in Focus podcast. Facilities in Focus is a product of the Facility Market, which houses FacilitiesNet, building operating management, facilities maintenance decisions, and healthcare facilities today. Thank you to our sound and video editor, Paul Ellertson. Thank you to Morgan Johnson for designing our logo. Thank you to Dan Welton, Dave Lubach, Dan Hounsell, Jeff Warden, Jill McDermott, and everyone else at Trade Press Media Group. For comments, or if you are interested in being a guest on Facilities in Focus, please email us at fnpodcast@tradepress.com.